I'd like to introduce you to a story about a shameless sister who likes to steal her younger sister's boyfriend, with such an eccentric personality that it's really frustrating to read. Synopsis: my twin sister married the man of my heart. 1 month after the wedding, my sister seduced me into switching identities. If you agree, you can become Ryan Keen's wife. But I didn't want to. However, my sister wouldn't give up. With just a little scheming, she transformed herself into me, the unmarried second daughter of the Marquis household. And I became Ryan Keen's princess consort. But my sister didn't expect that this game would push her into eternal damnation. Please listen to the story. I sat uneasily in the bridal chamber, waiting for Ryan Chun to return. Originally, the person who should be sitting here was his wife, Sophia Zhao. But because of Sophia's pre-planned scheme, a sleeping drug, a sedan chair, the person brought into the prince's mansion was actually me. When I woke up, my personal maid was nowhere to be seen. In her place was Sophia's maid, Linda, serving me. Linda whispered in my ear, "Second miss, these days you'll temporarily play the role of the princess. Until the first miss gets tired of playing. You better not make a sound. Otherwise, once the truth is discovered, do you think the Marquis household and the Imperial Palace will believe that the first miss forced you, or that you schemed to switch places with the first miss?" Her threat sent chills down my spine. Linda was absolutely not speaking carelessly. Sophia dared to do this because she was certain that I had no way out. Compared to me, our parents would trust and love Sophia more. And the royal family would naturally protect this princess who had been recorded in the imperial registry. I suppressed my emotions and said to Linda, "No matter how much my sister and I look alike, those close to us will eventually recognize her after a long time. Does she think Ryan Kin is blind?" Linda snorted coldly. "You don't need to worry about that." Princess, hearing that title, I suddenly startled. I had once dreamed of becoming Ryan Kin's princess. Now it had become reality. But I was wearing Sophia's identity, an identity I desperately wanted but couldn't reach, now something Sophia could bestow at will after growing tired of it. My sister Sophia was an extremely capricious person. Whatever she wanted, she had to have immediately, but she loved novelty. Anything in her grasp would soon lose its appeal, then be discarded. Our parents spoiled her completely. When she wanted to learn a fine instrument and insisted on lessons, our parents found one of the most famous music teachers in the capital to teach her. But in less than 2 months, she lost interest. The music teacher was about to leave when I begged him if he could stay and teach me a little. He agreed, but Sophia hated the instrument disturbing her. So from then on, no instrument sounds were heard in the mansion. Later, when I came of age, the court arranged my marriage to Prince Ryan Kin. When I heard the news, I couldn't sleep for 2 days. Every time I closed or opened my eyes, I couldn't hide my joy. Heaven had mercy, I could marry the man of my heart. But soon the imperial edict was changed. The bride changed from me to Sophia. It turned out Sophia said she also wanted to marry Ryan Kin. So our parents went to the palace to report that the second daughter, Spring Zhao, had fallen ill from falling in water and couldn't recover in time for the wedding. The marriage could be replaced by the eldest daughter, Sophia. The royal family approved. Everyone was overjoyed, except me. But now they had only been married for a month, and Sophia was already bored. Her interest in learning music had lasted longer than this. As I was thinking, the door suddenly opened. I startled and immediately lowered my head, afraid of being exposed. I carefully looked up and gasped. Ryan Kin sat in a wheelchair being pushed in by someone. A black silk band covered his eyes, his complexion pale and cold. What had happened to Ryan Kin's eyes? When did this happen? Yet no news had leaked out. I looked toward Linda. Her expression was calm, showing no surprise at all. Then I understood everything. Sophia always pursued the best. How could she endure facing a disabled husband every day? So switching identities with me was her best choice. She could both experience being a princess with glory, and return to being the Marquis's second daughter to continue seeking a good marriage. What a perfect plan, only who knew how long it could remain perfect. An idea gradually formed in my mind. As the wheelchair approached closer, a light fragrance wafted by. "Please serve His Highness the Yen Prince in changing clothes." "Your Highness," the eunuch pushing Ryan Chun's wheelchair said to me, then withdrew from the hall. Seeing this, Linda didn't stand beside me anymore. When she closed the hall door, she gave me a look as if warning me. I didn't step back, but looked at her without flinching. When the door finally closed, I smiled slightly, though Linda could no longer see. Sophia, Sophia. Because I didn't react immediately to hearing that name. Ryan Kin had called twice. I steadied myself, imitating Sophia's tone to answer. Husband, I'm here. I supported Ryan Kin's hand, helping him stand. Ryan Chin could walk, he probably used the wheelchair to avoid collisions. Perhaps his eyes had been damaged recently. I helped Ryan Chin to the bedside. He gently brushed my hand away, turned and sat down, looking up. I gazed at the face hidden behind white silk, a thought suddenly arising in my mind. Flawless white jade. I was curious about the eyes hidden beneath that white silk. Ryan Chin spoke, interrupting my thoughts. What's wrong with your hand? I opened my hand to see a thin callus on my finger. Since Sophia had forbidden me from playing instruments in the mansion, I had secretly gone out to find the Jade Copper Pavilion, where the music teacher resided, begging him to teach me. Unexpectedly, I had persevered in learning until now, resulting in marks left on my hands. But Sophia didn't know about this. I was worried about how to cover this up when unexpectedly Ryan Kin spoke first with a cold sentence. I froze, then breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he didn't pay attention to that thin callus. When undressing Ryan Kin, I was initially a bit tense. But after lying down, he did nothing, just held my hand. I stared at the face so close before me, an unreal feeling welling up inside. Due to worry, I didn't sleep deeply all night. When I woke, I found myself curled up in Ryan Kin's arms. So hot, I said drowsily. Ryan Kin was also awake. He placed his hand on the back of my neck, feeling the thin layer of sweat. I'll call for someone to bring water, he said. Early in the morning, Linda came to help me style my hair. When did Ryan Kin's eyes become impaired? Linda answered. An accident suddenly occurred the night before the wedding. When she was pinning my hair, she accidentally pulled painfully. In the mirror, I saw Linda's face had a somewhat gloomy expression. Because the Yan prince has eye problems, our young lady has never consummated with him. You're really lucky arriving here and last night already past the second watch, still calling for water to wash. Linda said. I spoke softly. What are you saying? Am I not your young lady? Linda frowned. Second miss. I slowly wound a few strands of hair that had fallen by my ear, saying, the one who married into the prince's mansion is Miss Sophia of the Zhao household. Correct. Then who else could be sitting before you now besides Sophia? After finishing my hair, I faced the mirror to draw my eyebrows. In the mirror, I glimpsed Linda's astonished expression. At this moment Ryan Kin was wheeled in. I placed 2 pairs of earrings in his hands. Which pair does he think is prettier? Linda immediately became tense, afraid I would offend Ryan Kin, and reminded, Princess, how can the Yan prince decide? Ryan Chin slowly said, is this how you usually teach your household's young lady? Linda froze, immediately bowing her head to apologize. At the same time, Ryan Chin released the earrings in his hand, telling me, the pair on the left. I smiled in agreement. I almost forgot about this the whole day. But in the evening, when I brought nourishing soup to Ryan Kin, he suddenly raised his hand to touch my ear. Then his finger lightly touched the blue pearl on the earring, exactly the pair he had chosen. The corner of Ryan Kin's mouth bloomed with a slight smile. After finishing the soup, Ryan Chin asked if I could write. I said yes. He asked me to write a letter for him. After grinding the ink, Ryan Kin dictated while I transcribed. The last line was signed James. I curiously asked, is James your middle name? Ryan Chin nodded. Yes, my close friends call me James. A thought flashed through my mind. I also have a pet name called Emma. Ryan Kin said. I've never heard you mention it. Only very close people call me that. Ryan Kin called out, Emma. I smiled and answered, yes, husband. From then on, Ryan Chin called me Emma, never mentioning the name Sophia again. Linda's expression was always unpleasant. I couldn't help but guess that perhaps both Linda and Sophia wanted to see me flustered and anxious at the prince's mansion. That way they'd have entertainment to watch. But on the contrary, I was living very well. Actually, Sophia had calculated quite thoroughly. Ryan Kin had certainly met us 2 sisters before, but due to gender differences, we always kept our distance and never looked closely. After the wedding, due to his eye problems, he couldn't see faces clearly. As for my personality being different from Sophia's, this was even easier to explain. This was the honeymoon period. If I was more lively, it could be called cute and spontaneous. If I was gentle, it could be called tender and thoughtful. I had calculated carefully, so I didn't try too hard to pretend to be Sophia. What kind of Princess Sophia of the Yan Prince's mansion would be depended on what Emily Zhao was like. Therefore, Linda was very displeased with me, friendly and warm in front, but easily showing dissatisfaction behind my back. But her master Sophia was much more patient than her. Once I met Sophia on the street. I was sitting in the sedan chair and didn't get out. Sophia tiptoed to lift the sedan curtain, speaking in an innocent, mischievous tone. Second sister, I heard you're very satisfied being a princess. Actually, I'm your benefactor. If I hadn't given way, how would you have the chance to become the Yan Prince's beloved? I smiled in response. What second sister? What giving way? Sister, are you confused? Sophia was stunned, but she quickly regained her composure, not bothering much as she said, pretending well, let's see, someday I'll take everything back. I sighed. Sister should learn some etiquette. Next time you see me, don't speak so rudely. How dare you, Emily? She was about to scold me but stopped halfway through calling my name. I suddenly remembered something. Linda is with me, so where's Emily's maid? Little Peach. That girl really messed things up. I asked sternly. Where is she? Sophia said. Her parents came to take her back. They even got 300 taels of silver. You not only didn't take ransom money but gave silver for compensation. What ransom? That maid died. Her parents just came to collect the body. My eyes burned as I asked through gritted teeth, dead how? Sophia laughed lightly. Don't glare at me. She was walking carelessly, fell into a well and died. Nothing to do with me. I understand, I said softly. Then sister should also be careful walking. Sophia angrily lowered the curtain. I didn't argue further with her. I still had to enter the palace to receive Ryan Qin. Ryan Qin had entered the palace since morning. Nothing important, just the emperor wanting to see him. Ryan Qin's birth mother was the imperial noble consort, favored for many years in the 6 palaces, so he was also very beloved. When I met Ryan Qin, he was touching flower buds in the imperial garden. I described to him one by one which flowers were blooming. Ryan Qin listened, then asked which flower I liked most. Crabapple. I blurted out. That was also my mother's favorite flower. I remember when I was born, the whole courtyard was filled with crabapple blossoms. Mother joyfully told father, I look at those crabapple flowers blooming on the branches, so beautiful. I want to name our child Crabapple. My name was given with all their devotion. I was once like Sophia, also cared for and loved. If that incident hadn't happened, things wouldn't have turned out like this. When I was 5 years old, I witnessed my father and my aunt being intimate in bed. I went to tell mother. As a result, father scolded me for meddling and ruining his good affairs. Mother was also angry at me for breaking her dream of marital harmony and trust. Sophia gradually discovered that even if she bullied me, our parents would pretend not to see. From then on, she became even more unrestrained. My interest in viewing flowers suddenly faded. As Ryan Qin and I were preparing to leave the imperial garden, Princess Rose suddenly appeared on the path, giggling as she threw a small stone at him. The eunuch accompanying us frowned and said to Princess Rose, Princess, please be careful. But Princess Rose was clearly doing it on purpose, because when she saw the momentary awkwardness flash across Ryan Qin's face, she laughed even more happily. I remembered that Princess Rose and the current crown prince were both children of the Empress. Princess Rose herself had no grudge against Ryan Qin, but the Empress and imperial noble consort had been secretly fighting for years, and the crown prince was very jealous of Ryan Qin. So these disputes seemed to have spread to Princess Rose. Ryan Qin's expression turned cold, saying only one word, childish. Princess Rose pouted. Imperial brother is so petty. I remained silent until after the princess left before bending down to ask Ryan Qin, we still need to see His Majesty, right? I made a suggestion. We should at least report this. Ryan Qin said indifferently, it's just a small stone, not enough to smash my head. Why report it? Apply some pink powder on your hand to fake an injury from being hit. Ryan Qin was a bit surprised, saying you're quite experienced. I shook my head, almost letting something slip. This small scheme wasn't Sophia's style. She was pampered and didn't need to fight for pity and attention like I did. I changed my words. I was just thinking this idea isn't good. Really unnecessary. Ryan Qin gently said, I'm used to dealing with poison. Not long after, I heard that Princess Rose fell ill. She even cried to the emperor, but the emperor said Ryan Qin was seriously ill and not recovered. Moreover, had an honest temperament and couldn't do improper things. Hearing this, I couldn't stop laughing. I turned my head and saw, outside the window in the courtyard, a crabapple tree had suddenly appeared. Linda told me the crabapple tree was planted on Ryan Qian's orders. When she said this, her tone was as gentle as usual, without the dissatisfaction of other times. Later, Linda continued, last night someone from the palace came to the Marquis's household. The intention was to arrange a marriage between the second daughter Emily and the crown prince. The second daughter Emily was actually Sophia now, so Sophia wanted to become mistress of the Eastern Palace. No wonder Linda was so triumphant today. Soon Sophia had to enter the palace to meet the Empress Dowager and Empress. She specifically requested I, her sister, accompany her. On the way, Sophia softly said to me, "Sister is really blessed. First betrothed to the Yan prince, now chosen as the crown prince's consort." When Sophia finished speaking, I suddenly remembered a small incident. When I was already the Yan prince's princess, I once met the crown prince alone in the palace. He and I exchanged a few words about winter plum blossoms this year, but I always held a jade fan covering half my face, refusing to fully reveal myself. When I was about to leave, the crown prince pressed to ask about my identity. "This humble woman is Emily." I answered lightly, then turned and ran. I was Emily, that wasn't wrong. But if the crown prince really went looking, the person he'd meet would be Sophia. I looked at Sophia beside me, smiling as I said, "Sister was willing to give up the position of Yan prince's princess to me. If someday I want to take back this crown princess position." Sophia's expression immediately turned cold. "Don't daydream. Just joking. Yet look how tense sister is." Sophia remained unhappy the whole way, not speaking another word to me. I took this opportunity to think about Ryan Qian, wondering if he had returned yet. This morning we entered the palace together, but I followed Sophia to the inner palace while he went to the hall of mental cultivation. Thinking of this, I suddenly realized I had gotten lost from Sophia. I was about to turn back to look when Princess Rose caught sight of me. She pulled me aside to chat for a while. I originally had some ill feelings toward Princess Rose and was looking for an excuse to leave. But just as I was about to speak, Princess Rose laughed lightly and said, "You want to go back to find Imperial Brother?" "That's right," Princess Rose slowly said. "Imperial Brother is probably sleeping at Clear Cool Pond right now." I asked, "How does Princess know what the Yan Prince is doing?" Princess Rose laughed again. "Ask a few people and you'll know. Besides, you don't need to worry, the Yan Prince won't see you return and be anxious, because in his heart, you've already returned." She paused slightly, then continued, "Imperial Brother is truly pitiful. His eyes can't see, he can only recognize people by voice." The uneasy premonition grew stronger in my heart. Princess Rose casually said, "I have a maid named Ruby. She's very good at imitating voices. Can you guess if she can imitate your voice?" I couldn't breathe smoothly, coldly saying, "The Yan Prince will kill her. Compared to that, you should worry about how to explain to Imperial Father. Consorting with palace maids in broad daylight isn't glorious. Moreover, if Ruby commits suicide, your Imperial Brother will be even less able to explain clearly." I turned and walked away. I needed to immediately return to find Ryan Qian, though I was very afraid of witnessing what might be an extremely shameful scene. There was no one at Clear Cool Pond. As for the palace behind Clear Cool Pond, there were no palace servants standing guard outside who knew where they had been sent. I ran to Clear Cool Palace. When I was just an inch from the closed door, I heard sobbing from inside. I pushed the door hard. The first image that hit my eyes was Ruby kneeling on the ground, shoulders trembling nonstop. She was still dressed properly, but Ryan Qian's robe hem standing before her was somewhat disheveled. Ryan Qian's expression was extremely cold and alert. I was about to call out to him but hesitated, and before I could react, he had already swiftly drawn his sword. In that instant, the blade fell. A deep cut opened on Ruby's neck, fresh blood spattering everywhere. I cried out in horror. Ryan Qian's attention immediately turned to me. He stepped over Ruby's corpse, walking straight toward me following the sound. "Husband." My words hadn't finished before they were cut off by Ryan Qian's next abnormal action. He used his hand to tightly squeeze my neck. The fierce pressure made it impossible for me to utter a word. I struggled to raise my hand, pressing hard on the wrist Ryan Qian was using force with. Unexpectedly, he let go. "Emma." Ryan Qian's voice suddenly became panicked. Ryan Qian removed the silk covering his eyes, his heavy expression clearly visible. He tried hard to look at me, but still had great difficulty seeing. I touched his eyes, gently comforting him word by word. Ryan-kin had a headache for half the day, making his eyes red too. When weak, he wanted to hold my hand, but after searching for the position several times, he withdrew his hand again. I took the initiative to reach out and tightly grasp his hand. I said, "I'm not afraid of you," I said. The Crown Prince personally came to the Yan Prince's mansion, saying he was apologizing on behalf of Princess Rose. Ryan-kin said the Crown Prince first said he had done his utmost to suppress this matter, then said he had strictly punished Rose. On the surface, it seemed he had done everything. Though clearly Princess Rose alone couldn't have completely arranged this plan, the Crown Prince only showed up now, making it impossible to grasp his weakness. This matter seemed like it would be let go. Late at night, I was alone in the bath, looking in the mirror at the red marks on my neck from being squeezed. I remembered Ryan-kin's rage when he discovered being played with, uncontrollably thinking, if he discovered Sophia and I had switched identities, would he decisively snap my neck? Suddenly the bathwater splashed. In an instant, a man's chest pressed against my back. My face burned. I tried to avoid him but then remembered he couldn't see, so I turned around and courageously fell into his arms. Ryan-kin removed the silk covering his eyes, his gaze lowered. "I'm sorry." He touched my neck. "Does it still hurt?" I didn't lie to him, just nodded. I was about to speak but before I could open my mouth, Ryan-kin spoke first. "Since it still hurts, we need to continue using medicine tonight." I froze for a moment. I lifted his lowered face to look straight into those no longer hidden eyes. I asked, "You can see now?" "Not very clearly," I said joyfully. "But at least you can see now." Ryan-kin raised his hand, his fingers gliding lightly across my cheek, slowly tracing each contour. Then his fingers stopped at the corner of my lips. At the third quarter of the pig hour, candlelight reflected on the screen showed the silhouettes of two people embracing and kissing. Near the Lantern Festival, Sophia had married into the Eastern Palace. She suddenly became the crown princess, surpassing me by a rank. She often invited me to meet, watching how respectful I was. After the festival, banquets large and small continued one after another, never peaceful. At a palace banquet, Sophia declared I was proficient in music. I stepped forward and respectfully reported to the Empress Dowager. "This humble one has no talent, only studied for a few days." The Empress Dowager laughed. "I've long heard from the Yan Prince that this child is very shy." "Indeed so." The Empress laughed. "You don't need to be bashful. Just perform as you usually do when practicing behind closed doors for the Yan Prince." A few gentle words pushed me into a difficult position. Fortunately, Ryan-kin's mother, the imperial noble consort, stood up to relieve the siege for me. "The weather is cold, hands are stiff, joints aren't flexible. I dare not disappoint the Empress Dowager and Empress." The Empress glanced at her, face showing displeasure. Sophia suddenly turned to me saying, "I also forgot, sister only studied for about a month and a half, right?" "That's right. I only learned that much in the mansion. After that I had to secretly go outside to continue learning." I said softly, "Sister really isn't afraid of me making a fool of myself. It's because of you. If you peacefully remained the Yan Prince's princess, it would be fine, but you keep wanting to challenge me." I sighed, stepped forward to request an instrument to relieve the siege for the imperial noble consort. I sat down and began to play. When the sound emerged, the surroundings suddenly became quiet. When I finished, the Empress Dowager waved for me to come closer. "Come here quickly. Let me get a good look." No one knew before that Ryan's bride had such skilled hands. After receiving the reward, when I returned from the Empress Dowager's side, the imperial noble consort also pulled my hand saying, "Come sit with me." When the banquet ended, Sophia looked at me thoughtfully and said, "Very good." Sister even dared to secretly continue studying. Though it was secret learning, it's thanks to our parents carefully choosing a talented teacher for sister who spared no effort in teaching. Mother came to the prince's mansion to find me. I thought it was something important, but it turned out she wanted me to make a trip to the Eastern Palace on her behalf. "I'm not convenient to go, but you children are sisters, sister-in-law and brother-in-law, frequently visiting is fine," Mother said. I asked if there was something important. Mother lowered her voice. "I've found a very effective folk prescription for bearing children. I want you to bring it to Sophia." Though I didn't want to, I couldn't help but ask, "Just for sister alone?" Mother said, You can't compare to the Eastern Palace. If there's no hair there, how can she stand firm? Whether she stands firm or not is her business. I don't want anything to do with it. Mother glared at me. Emily, you've become stubborn, haven't you? I said calmly. Mother, have you forgotten? I'm Sophia, not Emily. Are you acting? Why are you still thinking real? I smiled. What acting? If I'm not Sophia, then this is deceiving the monarch. When that time comes, our whole family can embrace each other and die together. Emily, your words are becoming more and more disrespectful. I laughed even louder. I am Sophia. How absurd. Mother was extremely angry and threw a fan at me. But faster than that fan was a hand that suddenly appeared before me. After a swift movement, the fan was caught tightly. I then realized it was Ryanqian who had arrived. Mother-in-law, be careful, Ryanqian said coldly. Mother awkwardly apologized, saying her hand slipped. Seeing Mother's appearance, I still decided to enter the Eastern Palace. The palace servant leading the way for me said the crown princess was inside, then they stopped outside the door. When I entered and saw that scene, I couldn't help but gasp. The crown prince was sitting on the floor, clothes disheveled, drunk with two people in his arms. Beside the screen, one person had collapsed in a small pool in the middle of the room, and there was another person. All were women wearing thin clothing. The crown prince suddenly woke up, opened his eyes, his gaze stopping on me. Then he quickly stood up, walked over and hugged me tightly. Emily, he called lazily. I am Emily. She's not here? The crown prince frowned, trying to look more carefully. He looked at me for a long time, then said, You are Emily. I slowly said word by word, I am the Yan prince's princess. The crown prince startled, immediately releasing me. He pointed toward the side hall. The crown princess is probably over there. I walked lightly toward the side hall. I saw Sophia sitting on the ground, clothes neat. Hearing footsteps, Sophia looked up. What are you doing here? I handed over the prescription. Mother is worried about you. Sophia only glanced at the prescription a few, then tore it up. She angrily said to me, Do you see? He dares to openly bring people into my palace to play around. This is my place. The place he said was specially built for me when I married in. I looked at the red mark on her face, silent for a moment. Sophia suddenly raised her hand to cover her face, losing control as she said, Switch back, Emily, let's switch back. The Yan prince's eyes have recovered, I slowly said. Now he's memorized my image deeply. Sister, you're talking nonsense. Clearly you and I are no different. Not so. I touched my nose bridge. Hair is different. Hair also has slight differences. I pointed to the corner of my eye. When young, I had stood before the mirror countless times wanting to see where exactly Sophia and I differed. Why did our parents love her more? Sometimes I even tried to massage those small differences, thinking that way I could become exactly like Sophia. She had completely lost her reason. I don't care. If we don't switch back, I'll make a huge fuss. I laughed coldly. At the Yan Prince's mansion, I'm Sophia. At the Eastern Palace, it's Emily. What's there to switch or not switch? Emily. Sophia gritted her teeth. Are you addicted to impersonating me? The person who married into the Yan Prince's mansion as princess is the eldest daughter Sophia. The one who accompanied as dowry maid is Linda. Haven't all these things happened to me? Sophia was too angry to speak for a long while before spitting out, The cuckoo occupies the nest. While we were arguing, suddenly there was commotion outside. I walked out and saw the emperor. Seeing the crown prince behaving so outrageously, the emperor was extremely furious. He even seized a guard's sword and placed it on the crown prince's neck, roaring, You truly are an unfilial son. The crown prince was scared sober immediately, hurriedly kneeling to apologize. Sophia also staggered over to plead for forgiveness on the crown prince's behalf. The emperor said in a deep voice to Sophia, Crown princess, stand up. We don't blame you. I stepped forward to help Sophia up. She couldn't control her anger and brushed my hand away. The emperor then noticed me and casually asked why I was here. I looked at Sophia's still, red cheek and said, This humble one came to see if the crown princess was all right. The emperor followed my gaze and immediately understood that Sophia had just been slapped. The emperor's breathing quickened. Crown prince, for your disrespectful behavior, you're confined to the Eastern Palace. Without our command, you cannot step out half a step. As soon as the order was issued, Sophia immediately collapsed to the ground without any strength left. If the crown prince fell from grace, who else could she rely on? When I left with the emperor, Sophia's gaze never left me for a moment. After returning to the Yan Prince's mansion, I told Ryan Qin that the emperor had flown into a thunderous rage. Ryan Qin looked at the crabapple tree outside the window for a while, then smiled and said, "Then there's still much more for him to be annoyed about." I originally thought it was just a joke, but in the following days, memorials impeaching the crown prince appeared one after another at court. The emperor read each one. When he read the memorial related to salt and iron, he almost overturned the entire desk in the Hall of Mental Cultivation. The confinement order not only wasn't lifted but was followed by successive reprimands. Princess Rose went to plead on the crown prince's behalf, but the emperor's anger also punished her. Soon she had no more time to worry about the crown prince's affairs. Her prince consort was discovered having an affair with a palace maid. Now that palace maid was pregnant, the princess's mansion also became chaotic. The empress, seeing the situation, decided not to interfere in her children's affairs anymore, only taking refuge in the central palace to preserve herself. The eastern palace was now shaken to its roots but hadn't completely collapsed yet. Until 3 months later when Ryan Qin was suddenly assassinated. This completely angered the emperor. When the crown prince was deposed, the emperor had shown mercy to Sophia, saying out of respect for the marquis's household, he would only demote her to commoner status without pursuing criminal charges. I thought the struggle between Sophia and me was about to end. She could return to being the daughter pampered by her parents. As for Linda, I couldn't let her stay by my side anymore. But Linda suddenly disappeared. I guessed she had returned to find Sophia. The Marquis household showed no movement. I continued being Ryan Qin's princess at the Yan Prince's mansion under Sophia's identity. I always hesitated, not knowing how to tell Ryan Qin the truth, but because he was busy dealing with Eastern Palace matters, often leaving early and returning late, I rarely saw him. This morning while drowsily turning over, I accidentally touched the arm beside me and immediately woke up. I saw Ryan Qin sitting beside me. Right after, I felt my palm cold. Something seemed to have been placed in my hand. Before I could look, I asked why he was still here today. Ryan Qin said, "Originally I had to leave, but seeing the crabapple in the courtyard had bloomed, I wanted to call you out to see." I looked down at my palm. It was a crabapple flower damp with morning dew. I joyfully pulled him to the window to admire the crabapple. Everything my heart desired was right before my eyes, but I still felt unreal. Since the emperor decided to establish Ryan Qin as crown prince, he had been staying in the imperial palace for several days without returning. Meanwhile, I received a letter from the marquis's household saying my mother was seriously ill. I returned alone. When I returned, mother's fever had broken. In her delirium, she called out, "Sophia, I'm here." I showed no emotion, holding her hand all day. She thought I was Sophia the whole time. Conversely, the real Sophia never appeared. When the maid came to deliver medicine and accidentally spilled it on me, I went to change clothes. By the time I returned, mother had finished the medicine and fallen asleep. I sat quietly beside mother all afternoon, suddenly realizing something. I immediately left and returned to the prince's mansion. When I arrived at the prince's mansion, the guard stopped me, asking suspiciously, "Didn't the princess already return at noon? When did you go out?" Another guard reminded, "This is the princess's sister." My heart immediately understood everything. Sophia had taken advantage of my absence to once again transform into the Yan Prince's princess. I asked the guard if Linda had also returned together. "That's right." The guard nodded. "That's correct. Perhaps the people in the mansion couldn't distinguish between us two sisters, but they recognized Linda. Linda was the maid the princess brought from home. Whoever she followed was the princess." I entered the prince's mansion and indeed saw Sophia and Linda. Sophia was wearing clothes identical to what I wore when going out this morning. Her makeup had also changed. The inherent differences between her and me had all been deliberately redrawn. Initially she didn't notice me, as she was bowing her head playing the zither. My music teacher was kneeling beside her teaching. Sophia wasn't learning to play for no reason, she was deliberately trying to become me. Linda saw me and loudly scolded, "Why didn't you announce yourself before daring to enter?" Hearing this, Sophia looked up, smiling as she said, "Sister, you've come." She then scolded Linda, "Open your eyes wide and look who this is. When my sister comes to visit me, why would she need to announce herself?" Linda continuously apologized. I calmly said to Sophia, Learn if you want, but sister should at least give the teacher a chair. I see he doesn't teach me as dedicatedly as he teaches sister, so let him kneel. I said sternly. Sophia Zhao, let him stand up. Sophia squeezed hard, a zither string immediately snapped. Then she told Linda Lin to get a chair. The teacher said softly, I'll go get a new zither. He stood up. When passing by me, he slightly raised his head to greet me. I left without saying a word. On the way, I picked up a stone. The corners of my eyes and lips were all scratched, my face dirty. I ran into my parents' arms in this miserable state. Sophia. Sophia. Father looked at me hesitantly. How did you end up like this? It's me, I'm Sophia. I cried while saying, Father, Mother, save me. Emily won't return the princess position to me. She even drove me out and let the guards beat me. My parents looked at me with harlesh. Emily, how could you do this? I cried nonstop. Mother quickly comforted me. Father immediately sent people to the prince's mansion to bring Emily back. The person brought back after half an hour. Sophia had just alighted from the sedan when father scolded her thoroughly. Sophia, your sister, remembering that you liked the Yan prince, gave up the princess position to you for a time. Yet now you won't return her status anymore. Sophia was stunned. Before she could react, she pointed at me sobbing in mother's arms. Everyone listened to her nonsense. I'm Sophia, she's Emily. Mother hugged me tightly, saying to her, stop pretending. This time Sophia truly couldn't explain. Parents, please look carefully, I'm Sophia. At this moment, Linda brought the music teacher over, hurriedly saying, Master, Madam, please don't just listen to Miss Emily. You should hear from others too. Linda asked the teacher, were you just teaching Miss Sophia? The truth is many years ago the Marquis specially invited me to teach Miss Sophia. The teacher pointed at me. After entering the mansion, the one I taught was her. He paused. But today the one who invited me to the mansion was the princess. The teacher had been invited many years ago to teach Sophia, but afterward he only taught me. This wasn't wrong. The one who just invited him to the mansion was the princess. This was also correct. Sophia also heard the truth. She looked at the teacher in shock, saying, you're also siding with Emily. Nuff. Father completely lost his temper. He pointed at Sophia and said, if I had known earlier that you, Emily, were so stubborn, I would rather send you back to the countryside to cultivate your temperament than let you stay here causing trouble. Father, I'm not her. Before she could finish, Sophia was already restrained by several wet nurses. Sophia was stuffed into a carriage when Ryan Kin arrived. When he saw the scene before him, he frowned. Why such chaos? Father apologized. My younger daughter Emily suddenly went mad wanting to attack the princess, so she's been tied up in the carriage to be sent away. Watching the carriage leave, Ryan Kin suddenly asked, how many daughters does the Zhou family have? 2. Father hesitated. Just 1? That's the princess. Ryan Kin nodded. I understand. He walked straight to me. So Durfel, I said. I asked, why did you come here? Emma, I came to take you home. Hearing him call Emma, my parents startled looking at me. Before they could react, their lips trembled, unable to speak. They wanted to step forward to chase after the carriage, but because Ryan Kin was here, they could only watch helplessly as the carriage carrying Sophia left further and further away. Ryan Kin was applying medicine to my face. I looked at him and slowly said, I am Emily, not Sophia. Ryan Kin paused his hand, then brushed the loose hair behind my ear, his voice gentle. Emily practiced zither for years, so her fingers have calluses, but Sophia doesn't. I was shocked. You knew. From the first night when you gave me your hand. That's right. You also knew I could play the zither. Ryan Kin left and returned with a zither in hand. He said your old zither had its strings broken by Sophia, so he's giving you a new one. I asked in amazement. You also know the teacher. Ryan Kin smiled. Don't you really remember me? Reminded by him, fragmented memories from the past suddenly connected. At the Jade Copper Pavilion, the teacher and I were studying a new musical score. Some passages even the teacher found somewhat difficult to handle. I'll ask James. He said several times like that. I curiously asked who James was. The teacher smiled gently. A young master who also often comes here. He's currently in the room next door. Want to meet him? Afraid of strangers, I shook my head saying I didn't want to. No problem. The teacher said confidently looking at me. You'll definitely meet later. You'll certainly meet. Epilogue. Everyone in the capital said that when it came to zither playing technique, if I claimed second place, no one would dare claim first. Actually, that wasn't true. Above me there was still James. Both James and the Zhao family's second daughter were regular visitors to the Jade Copper Pavilion. James, sometimes busy with court affairs, might not visit for a long time. Each time he had free time to visit, his first question to me was always, "Is she here?" If I shook my head, James would carry a gaze full of regret. Less than 2 years later, James told me he was about to marry the Zhao family's second daughter. I was very happy, saying that was good news. But right before the wedding day, the Zhao family's second daughter fell into the water. James jumped in to save her. When they reached shore, the Zhao family's second daughter was still unconscious. James's eyes could no longer see. The imperial physician said his eyes were contaminated in the water. When they would recover couldn't be determined. The Zhao family's second daughter didn't know this, and James didn't let me tell her. So she always thought I was the one who saved her. But I wasn't such a kind person. I even thought James was too kind-hearted, hastily jumping into water to save someone, resulting in becoming blind. Not to mention playing the zither, even his future as a prince was about to be ruined. When James appeared again, he was sitting in a wheelchair with silk covering his eyes, looking weak and haggard. I asked if he regretted it. He said he did regretted not realizing sooner to prevent the marriage switch. James struggled for a long time, unable to figure out how to turn the situation around, but Sophia inadvertently helped him. When James recounted this to me, he said pretending not to know was truly exhausting, but the corners of his mouth still bloomed with a smile. I heard that since being sent back to the countryside estate, Sophia had gone mad, talking nonsense all day about her identity being stolen. When James mentioned this, he said it wasn't his doing. I knew that because I was the one who made her kneel to teach me zither, that didn't matter. But she broke my zither strings. That zither was one I had traveled from south to north seeking rare materials to make. There was only one in the world. I had given it to the Zhao family's second daughter. After the zither was destroyed, I applied poison to the new zither, then watched with my own eyes as she reached for pastries to eat. The dosage wasn't much, not life-threatening, just that after stimulation, a person would easily become confused and delirious. Both James and the Zhao family's second daughter preferred the name Emily, so they made corrections in the royal genealogy. From then on, the genealogy only had the name Emily, no more Sophia. The one who married as the Yan prince's princess, later the crown princess, even the empress from beginning to end was always Emily. Emily, meaning spring crabapple flowers, sounds so pleasant. Moreover, James also loved crabapple flowers most. One spring night when the wind blew, all the flowers bloomed. James was drinking with me at the Jade Copper Pavilion. When he discovered the flowers blooming, he hurriedly wanted to leave. The whole garden of crabapples must be blooming too. I have to go home. I couldn't keep him. Nor could I understand, viewing flowers here was also viewing, why must he go home? Thank you everyone for listening to the story from Panda A Tale channel. Wishing you all a happy, joyful day. Remember to like and subscribe to receive notifications when new videos are released.